Allahu Ekber, Allahu Ekber, Allahu Ekber, Allahu Ekber. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Abdul Rahman. Welcome to my YouTube channel Islamic and GK vlog. Now we are going to talk to you about Prophet Muhammad. Unsurprisingly, the figure of Muhammad plays a seminal role in Islamic thought and practice. In certain respects, his post-Quranic standing markedly surpasses the way in which he is presented in Scripture. For example, the Quran emphasizes that Muhammad, like earlier messengers of God, is a mere mortal, whereas Sufi thinkers of a speculative bent, such as Saul Dusrari, died 896, describe him as the incarnation of a pre-existent being of pure light, the Muhammadan light. The Quran also enjoins Muhammad to ask God for forgiveness of his sins, and one passage bluntly reproaches him for disregarding a blind man who came to you eagerly and in fear of God, and preparing to attend to someone who haughtily deemed himself to be self-sufficient. In contrast to such scriptural statements in later centuries, there emerged the doctrine that Muhammad and other prophets were free of sin, although there was disagreement as to whether they could commit minor and unintentional infractions, and the belief that Muhammad exemplified the perfect human being. Another contrast between Quranic and post-Quranic images of Muhammad concerns the issue of miracles. The Quran cites Muhammad's opponents as demanding that he demonstrate his prophetic credentials by various miraculous achievements, such as being accompanied by an angel. In response, Muhammad is instructed to disclaim any pretense to possess the treasures of God, to have knowledge of the unseen, or to be an angel, and is described as a mere warner. Thus, the Quran patently does not present Muhammad as a miracle worker. The later tradition, however, frequently depicts him as having possessed extraordinary knowledge of commonly inaccessible matters, often said to have been mediated by the angel Gabriel, and as having performed sundry supernatural feats. Thus, the enigmatic reference to a splitting of the moon in Quran is interpreted to mean a confirmatory miracle that Muhammad performed in response to a challenge by the Meccan pagans. As a matter of fact, classical Islamic theologians routinely adduced Muhammad's miracles as one of the arguments establishing that he was a true prophet. In other respects, however, there is significant and crucial continuity between the Quranic and post-Quranic visions of Muhammad. Certain parts of the Quran, normally dated to the Medinan period of Muhammad's life, ascribe a much more elevated status to him than do earlier layers of scripture. Thus, the Quran demands belief in God and his messenger, and one verse ascribes to Muhammad two attributes, kindness and mercy, that the Quran otherwise reserves for God. Furthermore, God and his messenger must not be insulted, a demand that foreshadows the view of medieval Islamic jurists that insulting the prophet is a punishable offense. Of particular importance are the frequent scriptural commands to obey God and his messenger, as well as the unequivocal statement that to obey Muhammad is to obey God. The Quranic verse even describes Muhammad as an exemplar to the believers. Such pronouncements from an important impetus For the latter view that the custom of Muhammad holds normative significance for all Muslims and that in working out God's commandments, Islamic scholars are to rely on prophetic precedent to supplement and interpret the relatively limited amount of legislation contained in the Quran. Al-Safis died 820 influentially insisted that the prophetic sunnah was to be assessed by recourse to a specific corpus of texts, namely extra scriptural reports about the utterances and actions of Muhammad, the so-called prophetic hadith. The challenge of determining which of the multitude of such traditions could be deemed to be authentic already exercised pre-modern Islamic scholars and led to a sophisticated philological weighing to the material, even though modern Western scholarship takes a rather less optimistic view of the feasibility of establishing the prophetic origin of specific hadith reports. Sunni Islam recognizes 6 quasi-canonical collections of authentic hadith, of which the most famous are those by Al-Bukhari, died 870, and Muslim Ibn al-Hajjaj, died 875. Even beyond the strictly legal purport of Muhammad's example, the imitation of the Prophet has functioned as an important vehicle of ethical and spiritual growth for many Muslims across the centuries. Thus, pious matters as using a toothpick or not trimming one's beard. The presence of Muhammad in popular Islamic piety is also anchored in festive commemorations of his birth on the 12th or 17th of Rabiul Awwal, the third month of the Islamic calendar, during which the most famous panegyric on the Prophet, the so-called Mandil poem by al-Busiri, died 1295, is traditionally recited in many Islamic countries. Other festivals associated with Muhammad are the commemoration of his night journey to Jerusalem and ensuing ascent to heaven, celebrated on the 27th day of Rajab, the 7th month of the Islamic calendar, and his receipt of the first Quranic revelation toward the end of the fasting month of Ramadan. Muhammad's presence also extends to eschatology, for he is believed to have the power to intercede with God on behalf of the members of his community on the day of judgment. The confrontation of the Islamic world with modern Western imperialism, science and historiography from the early 19th century onward has led to manifold re-readings and reimaginings of Muhammad's biography in scholarship, literature and even film. A particularly influential 20th century biography of Muhammad is Hayat Muhammad, the life of Muhammad, by the Egyptian writer Muhammad Hussein Haykal, died 1956. Haykal emphasizes the rationality of Muhammad's teaching and of the Quran and aims to clear the traditional Islamic sources on the Prophet's biography of what he perceives to be superstitious aspects. Muhammad remains an ideal character, although the ideal represented by him are strongly modernized. A much more daring literary adaptation of Muhammad's biography than Haykal's is Aulat Haratina, 1959, Children of the Ali, by the Egyptian novelist Naguib Mahfouz, died 2006, an urban allegory of the history of Judaism, Christianity and Islam, common motifs in modern and contemporary writings about Muhammad by authors from the Islamic world, are the Prophet's political and social vision, issues of gender, the nature of the revelations received by him and his attitude toward the use of violence, problems of historical authenticity and reliability, as well as the covert ideological tendencies underlying early Islamic sources are treated, for example, by the Moroccan sociologist and feminist Fatima Mernissi, died 2015, and in the Tunisian historian Hicham Djaids, born 1935, works on the biography of Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum.